I just want to give you some background first. I need to make some confessions really early up, just in case you've got a better session that you want to go to. Firstly, when I put in a proposal to do this, which I kind of did on a dare, I had just built the chatbot for the first time and hadn't yet used it. So it was all promise and hypothesis and all the rest of it. The extent to which it's actually worked so far, you know, it's not changing my life significantly, I have to say. But I think I have got some insights into the reasons for that and what I will do differently next time. And having a brains trust of people who are interested will really help me. So that's really good. And secondly, I think I actually don't know whether you're going to be able to build a chatbot by the end of the next 90 minutes or not. We're going to have a red hot crack at it, and I don't think it's impossible, but let's see how we go. The more people we have in the room, I suspect the harder it will be. I think it's going to be nigh on impossible to do on your phones, but those of you who have computers will get a good start at it. But what I want to do is really show you what I've done, why I've done it, how I've approached it, and then have a crack at seeing if we can actually build something together. I thought we can crowdsource the inputs for the bot. So if you guys are happy with that, can I just, have we got any people in the room who actually know how to code? Okay. Good, because I don't, so I am going to say really, really crappy things, and I will use the wrong terminology, and I'm very much approaching this from the point of view of somebody who doesn't know how to code. I would really love it, particularly when, not if, when I say stuff that makes absolutely no sense to people who know what they're doing, if you could actually share why that is with the rest of us, because we will all learn. We can, have any of you actually had any involvement with making or creating a chatbot before? Okay, one person has. Good. So when I really, really fall on my ass, sorry, what's your name?
Ken.
Ken. Ken is going to take over, right? So we'll be fine. Okay. So basically where I want to start is thinking about what I was doing. So I'm going to not make the same mistake of yesterday. Actually, I'll half make it, because I was about to say yesterday, I am the world's laziest alcoholic. That may in fact be true, but what I was trying to say is I'm the world's laziest workaholic. I'm constantly interested in doing new things or interesting things, but once I've done them, I'm not really interested in doing them again. As I said at the beginning, I do not think of myself as an academic. I don't have a PhD. I've got the test score equivalency or whatever it means, but I know all of you with PhDs just sneer at me for that. And I've never really been somebody who is significantly deep and narrow in one area. I tend to be shallow and broad in the things that I do. And I came to being an academic by accident, or what I like to call myself a pracademic by accident. I'm an entrepreneur. I've come from a fintech background. We were 2 years into building a company that has since listed, but it was 2 years with no income. And I have a taste for shoes that it's very hard to get away with actually buying new shoes when you're not earning any money, when you share a wardrobe with the person who is. So I had this opportunity to just have a crack at teaching, so teaching M&A, which is my space in the law school. And it was a really great opportunity for me. Turns out I really like teaching, and I think I'm probably pretty good at it. But then there's a whole bit of it that I really didn't like. And I really like my students. I find they're really interesting people. I enjoy my time with them. And other than very small occasions like this, 99% of my involvement with the university as a sessional staff member is with students, not with other teachers, not with professional staff or otherwise. And I like talking to my students about the work that we were doing, but I really didn't like talking to them about what room are we in? Like, how do I know what room we're in? Like, what what happens if they're over the word limit? What do they need to do to get an extension? You know, I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. I'm Googling the policies to work this stuff out. And so over time, I kind of developed a few little practices where just in Outlook, I call them canned responses. I had sort of standard responses to the standard questions, so I can just cut and paste something into Outlook or into Google as we were using at the time. And that works pretty well. And actually, if that's all you want to do, particularly if you don't have large classes, it's actually a really great way to do it. You know, your investment in your time is not significant. But I'd also had this kind of desire over time, and the desire was definitely mine, to have a go at working with a chatbot. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing and an interesting idea that if I could just have an alter ego, and I call her, I have a gendered chatbot, I call her the Cathbot, who could answer all the questions that I don't want to answer and would be reliably good-tempered about it, because I am not a reliably good-tempered person. And so when I was thinking about doing this from a desirability point of view, I was thinking that actually students want to get, like, students don't want to be told by their teacher when they finally get on to that teacher, I'm not the person to ask about that, you need to go somewhere else. They trust you and they want to deal with you. And then from my point of view, I just want to focus on the stuff that matters. I want to have meaningful conversations with my students and not do the other stuff. So I thought from a desirability point of view, there's two sides to this platform. There could be advantages to both sides in doing this. But then firstly I played around in Facebook, you know, Facebook automated stuff, but from an ethics point of view and just from not really understanding Facebook as a system, for want of a better word, I wasn't entirely sure that it was a good thing for students to be going in and having a bot respond to their questions in a platform that we had no boundaries. So I fiddled around with it, and it was a bit clunky when I tried. It wasn't a great response anyway, but that's what I did. So I just happened to stumble across this particular platform app, which is called quriobot, which I'll lead you to later, which actually it allows 500 interactions a month before you have to pay any money. It was feasible for me to do a little experiment with to see how it worked. I think it's also worth pointing out at this stage that the classes I teach are small. So it would be very rare for me to have this many students in a classroom as we've got today. Mainly in the JD program, the classes are sort of usually around the 40 face-to-face, possibly about somewhere between 10 and 20 online, regular attendance. You know, I had 23 in my class last week, so very much smaller numbers. And so it is that, you know, how much time does it take you to do this versus how much time are you actually saving? That equation you kind of need to think through. And then my last question really, and I still don't think I've really answered this, is this actually a viable solution for the problem that I want to solve? And so that's that time to effort ratio issue. Sorry, I only learned how to do this right on my slides the other day. What is going on with that? It's not going to work. So hopefully my handwriting is legible. So there was these two questions. Is the time to effort ratio there? And actually, will the students use it? And again, this is probably my confession up front. So far, my experience, when I wrote the proposal to do this, I had no idea whether they would or not. The short answer is no, they don't right now. They're not using it a lot. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that I'd like to go through. And for my time and effort, I think it's worth another semester at least of trying it. But right now, we're in a different place. So I basically needed to test that, and that's why I built the bot that I built. So so I get excited about my bot. This is what my bot looks like. And basically, I have a 11-year-old friend who showed me Snapchat. And on Snapchat, you can make these things called Bitmojis. And you can even put the app for free into Chrome. You make a little animated version of yourself. And I've basically just taken different versions. That's supposed to be me, by the way. Can you see? I've just taken this as the illustration. So now before I go there, I'm going to show you how my bot works on the screen, but if any of you have phones and you want to actually just play with the Chatbot yourself, feel free to just scan before I get in there, because you can ask it different questions. Hey, like I said, not a lot of students have used it, not as many. I've probably had about 150 interactions over the whole time it's been up and running that haven't been me. And so there are avenues that still might not work. It's still there. So everybody happy enough with that? And what I'm going to do is escape from here. We're going to keep recording with any luck. I'll show you firstly how I've put it. So at the moment, I've put it into Canvas. Like I said, it's a completely unauthorized experiment when I did it, so it will not surprise any of you that this page went into Canvas. It's just one of the module pages after QA was done. So I'm outing myself as... So, and basically it works like this. So I've just embedded it inside as a link inside a Canvas module, but people can start. So it introduces itself and it asks you some questions. So again, it's still set up as I did at the beginning. Student can click on something, it'll say cue the VHS, and out it just goes straight to the message that I set up. Now on the phone, people pick different things from what I've done and have a look. Once they've finished watching this, I won't put you through watching my message, sorry about that. They get to ask a few other things. Now I've populated it with GIFs and little photos and stuff like that because that's me. It reflects my personality. It's trying to be a bit of an alter ego. And remember, I did this on my own time for a bit of fun. I think actually though that one of the reasons that my students aren't using it is because I have populated it with all of this extraneous crap. And when you're actually looking, when you just want to be anonymous and ask for some information, particularly information you might be embarrassed to ask about, like it looks like my assignment's going to be late. Asking them for things like their names and having silly bits of, you know, your own personality thrown in, I think that actually puts them off. I could be wrong, but there are a couple of things that I'm going to experiment with. So in particular, so this one's set up so, because I have a lot of different things in here where people can ask a question and it looks for something. Now it's not really AI, it's kind of clever. But let me think about like special consideration. So I started to type in special and I get there, but it might also late, I can't remember what's in there, late submissions, or as one of my colleagues maybe put in the other day, what is a contract? This is for a contract class, like contract law class. So let's go with what is a contract. Could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. I got random ones. The one that came in yesterday was, you know, I could tell you, but you'd have to miss out on the reading, and it goes on like that. What I have done recently with this is I have removed the need early on for the students to give their name, because the stats were showing me that as soon, I was just asking for their name because the tech lets me say, hi, Tanya, how are you today? Or Tanya, that's got a nice ring to it. Or Mark, you know, it's great to see you again. And it immediately got creepy, particularly when I asked for their email. So I sort of modified that now so that particularly when I'm asking them for a comment or an input, I ask them for their comment first, which might come to it. Do you have a complaint about me? Do you have a complaint about Kath? Do you like this? I've got all these different ways. And then I ask them, would you like to talk to Kath about this? Would you like to get an email response? Or the next option is, I understand that nobody's going to get back to me if I remain anonymous, but I'm happy to do that. And I think I've only done that quite recently. But of course, because I've only done it quite recently, the people who aren't using it are still not using it. So it'll kind of need next semester to start again to see if that makes any difference. But it does lead me to think that particularly if you're interested in doing something like this in a large group, and I want to mention in a minute the project that we're doing in GSBL with the Graduate School of Business and Law with a large class that Ling Mei here is running, or running a project where there'll be over 1,000 students. I think one of the things we do need to think about is not just the students feeling safe putting the information in, but the coordinators and the teachers at the other end, because if a student is having a bad day and they're deciding to be a little bit rough and they can be anonymous, I think we have to protect the people at the other end as well. That could just be me, I don't know. Sorry, I can talk underwater, as you probably worked out. Another reason why people might prefer the Chatbot, she's a little bit quieter than me. Questions, concerns, frustrations, any observations? Can you see what I'm doing?
Have you asked the students in person what their feelings are about it?
I have asked students when they have identified that they've used it, and a couple of students have told me that they've given me some feedback that has changed it. So that's actually really useful. One of the pieces of feedback, you can adjust in the software, and I'll show you this shortly, you can adjust how long a response goes for. And again, my responses are quite wordy. I think there would be some benefit in cutting them down and making them a little bit more concise, particularly when it's not just trying to be me, or it's not trying to emulate a personality as much as just be an information tool. I think the shorter and crisper the responses are, and frankly, I think there would be benefit in getting somebody to go through and do a proper copywriting process with them once you've got all of the information to make it as easy to find. But when they're long responses, slowing them down helped. Again, in the JD program in particular, which is where I really tested this, our students tend to be older. So, you know, look, I'd be anecdotal, but the average age in my class would be mid to late 30s, I would be thinking. And like me in my mid to late 30s, they're vain, they don't want to wear glasses, so they've got their screen settings to enormous all the time. And so this takes up absolutely everything. And any of you who trying doing this on your phone, because it comes out on your phone as well, if you've got the settings to really big type, it's just going past you too quickly. So that the physical way you interact with it, I think, is really important. And coming back to what is your audience for this bot? What are they looking to get out of it, I think is important. The other place that my students drop out is if I go say no here, I assume it's going to get needy and ask for some feedback. And they don't give me anything here, but they'll ring me. And a couple of the students have said, this will make me sound like a complete tosser, which by the way I am, they said to me, oh yeah, look, the bot is cool and it gives me the information, but we like talking to you and you're pretty easy to get hold of. So, you know, there was a HBR article just in the last edition, which I really should be able to quote for you, but I can't off the top of my head. The bit that I remember from it is it was talking about accessibility, as in, or how easy it is to deal with people. And the example that they used is if you're hungry, you're sitting in a meeting and there's a jar of M&Ms on the table, you're likely to eat them all. But in the same meeting, you're still hungry, there is a vending machine with M&Ms in the next room, you're actually quite unlikely to get up and get that same candy. And I think I have to put my M&Ms in the vending machine if I want to actually really test whether this is useful or not. And I am thinking next year that I will probably, if I can work out a way to do an autoresponder when the sender is a student, which I think I can do by just having, you know, if student name includes S something at rmit.edu or blah, blah, blah. If the immediate response is, you know, Kath will get back to you within 48 hours, if you've got a problem about admin, blah, 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 try the bot with a link. I suspect that might jump it too. Because remember here, I'm just doing this because I'm selfish and that I don't want to be spending my time talking about this other stuff. So that's sort of my thinking there. Sorry, let me go back here. So, what have I got next? Okay, so this is another one for you to have a look at. Now, this one is not finished, so you can break this one quite easily. I'm not saying you couldn't break the other one, but this is a project that L&T, or Learning and Teaching in GSBL, have funded. And so Chris Booth, one of my colleagues in the MBA program, he had a look at the bot and he thought that there was value in maybe doing something beyond me just goofing around doing my own thing. And he took it to Ling Mei, who's here, who's the head of L&T in that school. And ultimately a small project was funded to have a look at it. And it's kind of morphed. So now the project is looking at this commercial law course, which is a course that GSBL offer into the undergraduate, a range of different undergraduate programs in the College of Business, if I'm right. It's a compulsory, basically, commercial law subject, and there are more than 1,000 students in it at any given time. So the coordinators are just being hammered with these kinds of questions. So we're looking at not only what the impact could be if we use something like this with a larger cohort, but also what kind of research that we can get out of this project and whether we can test some of these hypotheses. So if you scan in there, you can have a look at what that bot looks like. And that one, it's not me goofing around. It now looks like an RMIT. You know, it's got the look and the feel and all the rest of it, and it can be that kind of anonymous thing. So it's pretty early days at the moment. I just got it coded to one thing. If you want to see how it's going to work, I suggest that you ask about assessments, and then there's a week 7 assessment. That, if you go down that trail, you probably won't run out of for a while. Otherwise, very quickly, it's going to say to you, I don't know anything about that yet. And so there are a lot of dead ends. Basically, why mention that? Because I think that that work, particularly, you know, Chris and I have spent a bit of time thinking through how to make that work, and sort of based on the methodology I used to start off with myself, and really what I'd ask you to do a little bit anecdotally now, like, because even if we do this brilliantly, the chatbot you build today, you'll want to keep fiddling with it if you think it's going somewhere. So what I did is you got a gut feel for what you think the key questions are going to be. You know what they are, and I'd already built in my email sort of standard responses. But I did spend a bit of time going through my emails to look for what kind of questions do people ask me that I don't want to answer. And also importantly, well, I thought importantly, I suspect importantly, it's still a hypothesis, is what language do the students use when they ask that question? Because as I build out the bots, I want it to be able to find answers based on the language that they use when they ask. So that was the approach that I took looking at that. Sorry?
When you say language, do you mean terminology? Or
Yeah. The terminology, well, I'm not sure I understand the difference. See, not an academic.
Like Chinese.
Oh, no, actually, that's a good question. I'll come back to that. I was actually originally thinking, and again, I'm teaching in the JD program where it's 90% English as a first language. So, although that is changing quite radically. No, I was looking at the kind of terminology that they use. Interestingly, one of the reasons that I picked the software that I have is it can work in multiple languages. So you can put the script in, and we were looking at it yesterday, I had wanted it to have Vietnamese because I was doing a reasonable amount of work with the EMBAs in Vietnam, but it also has Chinese, simplified Chinese. There's at least 4 languages that look like a version of Arabic, but I am assuming that they're Farsi and whatever. There's Hindi, there's a range of different, we can have a look at that in a second. Again, it's not translating for you. You would need to have corresponding scripts. So, you know, hello, ni hao, xin chao, but you've got all three of them sitting together, and that prompt will take you to the one that it will detect from the operating system that the student is using. So I think that's quite powerful for something that is free, personally. Anything else? Hi, how are you?
How much of it do you go into writing your responses that they're generic from semester to semester?
Well, this is the very first time I've done it, and it's a really good question, because where I started was the Chatbot was going to be all things to all men and women. It was, you know, it's like me, my personal life, like the first iteration, my very first go, it was, I put it in the family chat with my kids' Facebook, right? My kids are 20 and 26, and basically all paths led to clean your room. Or I'll turn off the Wi-Fi or something like that, you know, like I was treating them like 10-year-olds, but just to give it a try. And then I added in contract law, which I was teaching, and then I added in Asian management issues. I was taking a group to Vietnam, and then I added in design thinking for Vietnam, which now isn't even going ahead. So it was just like this kind of range of different things, and some paths go to the same place, and I just made it way too complex. So I pulled that back and I started again. And I think the trick is, and then my contract law one, my idea was actually I can have week by week, you know, what do I need to prepare for this week? And it can go to that material and all the rest of it. But then, again, not a coder. I can see how it's possible. I just found actually, particularly when there wasn't that much interest in having a look at it, I kind of lost my interest in doing that part of it as well. But I think if you simplify that, and it's just, if you're actually asking the student, or you can add in the date ranges, but you'd have to change them every semester, it's like, this is where you go to in Canvas. But of course, every semester the Canvas links change, so I'm going to have to go back and check that. So if you're going to try something like this, and the more you need to link out to somewhere else, the more you're going to have to take some good notes to make sure that you go back and fix those things. And yeah, look, again, this started off as a pretty undisciplined kind of approach, and I've learned a lot doing it, but it was me doing it for fun as much as anything else. I think my recommendation would be that if you are going to do this, start small, work out what students say is missing, and then add that way, rather than try and be all things to all men and waste a lot of time. And then from a scripting point of view too, I think there are the two kind of approaches. I'd really like to A/B test them. What's really interesting to me, feedback from the students, is the messing around with, you know, jokes and gifts and everything. It's like they don't want that. But when I talk to academics about it, which I haven't done much, and I'd be really interested in what you guys think, they think that makes it look like it's going to be a more fun activity for them. And so most of the academics seem to be saying, oh, but the gifts are cute. Like, I would like to do that. I think we need to make it fun. And so, and my proposal for the GSBL project is that actually let's run two bots, just like pick one stream that have one and one the other, and actually just see who engages with it. And the students talk to each other. So if they find their bot annoying, they'll send people over to the other one. That's my guess. And again, it's just kind of a cheap experiment. I'll miss you terribly. Now we haven't got anybody who's actually built a bot. Damn it, except me. Okay, I've just realised I'm probably supposed to be standing behind that microphone. I didn't even realise it was on. Is that, yeah, you can hear me, I assume, right? Okay, good. So, again, if you want to get into the software, I'll go scan code there. If that's not the way that you work in, because you've got computers, I didn't think that one through. The site is quriobot, which is spelt with a Q, quriobot.com. I'm going to go into it in a minute. We're just going to make a bot together. But if you want to bot along, so many random bebop jokes going. Everybody had enough of that? I will bring one up and we will go from there. Okay, so this is the site. You might want to have a look at the pricing, etc. clearly. again, my thinking about this is these things will either work or they won't, right? And again, small experiments, see what we can learn. It, for 500 interactions a month, so 500 people dealing with your bot, you can do that for free with some limitations in some of the stuff that is there. Particularly, it's got branding, etc. I know nothing, right? I'm a sessional lecturer. What do I know? But the university's got to be looking at bots, right? And if they're not looking at bots now, they're going to if there's an upswell of interest in doing it. With this particular software, you can download the code. So they can see how it's been built. You can actually go in and get all of the code anyway. So it's pretty open in that way. And I assume that you might be interested in doing this because you're interested in building a bot, because you're a nerd like me, or it could be that you just want to solve that problem around dealing with the admin queries, or you might also be thinking, my latest excitement about using the bot is maybe bots for quizzes and for checking learning in a shell. I think if people are using it in an interesting way, we don't actually want to be maintaining the back end of that stuff, right? So once there's a groundswell, then we create a movement. And if there's no use for it, it doesn't matter. So I say go for it for free. And then there's a sliding scale. I think it's about, it goes up to €19 a month for pretty much unlimited interactions. And then there's enterprise. So it's not super expensive, but it's not, you know, it's not entirely free. Nothing is. Actually, I'll go into that one. You don't mind me using the RMIT one, do you, May?
Oh, no, not at all.
So, all right, so once you've actually logged in and created an account, you get taken to this area called the dashboard. And the dashboard basically allows you to create a new bot. And so I'm just going to press on the link there. It will, so we're going to call this the disrupted bot. And clearly I can't type, but that's okay. We'll fix that later. And we can start from scratch, or again, this is a product that's been made for marketing, right? It's been and that's one of the other things I like about it, is it collects a whole lot of information about what's happening. You can decide whether or not you collect information about the actual students yourself, I guess. It's GDPR compliant, so its privacy standards are very high. It has a number of fail-safes that I think make it quite good, in particular being able to just download the code for the bot, because that will help you put it into another system later if you want to. But it starts off with these marketing templates that are not necessarily what we would want to use. But I mean, the very first one I did, I started with the welcome bot template. I thought I might actually just start with the quiz template this time, just because, well, whatever you like actually, but it's just because that's what I'm interested in at the moment. And I can start from scratch as well. The other thing you can do once you've created a bot, I could send you my template bot and you could then build from that. You could take things away from it. So I've selected that I'm going to go with a quiz. We could look at the previews, but you know, you're grown-ups with smartphones. If you're interested, you can do that at some stage. And we end up with this little pre-built, ready-to-edit bot that we can play with. So what I want to do, though, before we actually go to those things, I think I've found, again, the hard way, that there is value in starting with the settings first, because there are some things that you are probably going to want to change from the very beginning. So, for example, I want to put in, and you can see the range of languages that are available. There's quite a lot of them. I'm going to put in English UK. And because I could start from scratch, but it's basically going to say, actually, I want do I want both of those language? I'm going to override the original language and get rid of American. Okay? And it could possibly break at this early stage because it's going to say, oh, we've got some incorrect language or something like that there. Let's see. The other thing I learnt the hard way is save often. Because you can go backwards and undo things, but if you have a logic error in your bot somewhere, it will not save. And it's quite intuitive. It shows you where it thinks the logic error is, and you can go back and fix that. But the first time I got excited, I'm working away, I'm hitting the preview button all the time to see it's all working beautifully, and then something broke and I could not work out what it was. And I've gone for an hour and a half and I just basically had to throw all of that away. Now, I think I built it better and faster the second time around, but, you know, again, we're trying to be efficient. World's laziest workaholic. So the design settings too, I'm not going to spend our time changing them here, but you can see here that it's got quite a lot of flexibility in the changes. If I go back to my PowerPoint, one of the things that I did, because I have no life, is, and by the way, I'll share this PowerPoint with the organisers afterwards if they want me to, but I went through, I found the RMIT style guide. Man, that bugger is hard to find. But anyway, I found it. I found about 6 of them actually, but I think I found the most recent one. And I basically took the hex values, so I think that's what you call them, code people, yeah? Basically, I took the hashtag numbers and just typed them in. So if I wanted to change this number, for example, oh, sorry, I'm out of there. I can just pick, oh, actually, because we're in here, we can do anything we like, can't we? So if I decide that I just want a different colour for that, I can change that. Who doesn't love a bit of hot pink in the morning, I say? So let's make that change. And so I can either pick them from things that I like, or I can just type in the numbers. And it has 3 different number modalities, but the hash numbers seem to work brilliantly. The other thing is the behaviours to the bot really go down to how long you have between each chat piece. So I'm not going to change these for the moment. We might adjust them as we go on later. But at the moment, on both mobile and screen, these are set at 1,000 milliseconds, so a second, basically. So there's a second between each one. Now, when I had longer chat, or when I put in a video or something, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, I found that it was worth going and changing that. But you can do that. These are the defaults. You can do that at the individual level. Am I losing you all, or is that making sense? Okay, sorry. I have a bit of a tendency to treat everybody like they're 5, so just tell me if you need me to speed it up or slow it down. And again, go through these and think about them, test them. Again, at any given point, we can save, and then we go straight into preview mode. So we can just have a look at what it looks like. So this is a particularly ugly background. There's a math quiz, and after a second it's going to come in. It says hello, are we ready to start? Off we go. It asks us a math question. Box contains 2 green balls and 5 yellow balls. 2 balls are drawn at random without replacement. If the first ball is drawn green, what is the probability of the second ball is yellow? There are 7 all up, so I'm going to say 5 out of 6, and there we go, bingo. So we can, I'll just randomly do the next one, hopefully I'll get it wrong. There we go. It added up a score for me and says finish. Okay, so this is a very basic bot, the one that we've got. We'll change some of these things because we're making a bot for Tanya. She didn't bring her computer, so we're going to make a bot to remind her to bring her computer next time. Let's make that up. Okay, the avatar. So this is the place where I put my little Bitmoji picture. Let's actually do this because this is pretty easy to do. I can just pick an avatar. I am pretty sure that I have got some. There we are. I'm going to put the little RMIT pixel in there, save it. you could put a picture of your dog, you could put your Bitmoji in there, you could put anything that you like in there, really. And so now this is the default avatar. So again, I'll save that. Just quickly, I'm just going to keep going back so you can see what the changes I make are. Now, I'm just assuming you guys are following along with me here, right? And you're just going to do it. Pah! And it hasn't worked. It could be. See, in fact, it didn't save. See, it's got an error in it. Errors, this is how we learn, right? We need to make mistakes. So it's actually saying, please resolve all of the errors before we can save it. I'm going to call this, what bot name did we give you, Tanya, beforehand? MacBot. We've heard of the Big Mac. We've now got the MacBot. All right, so I'm not going, and you can have different avatars for different circumstances. So, you know, if people ask me something about, oh, you know, I've submitted late, I can put in an angry face in my response to that. I probably wouldn't, but why not? So, is that going to let me save that? Oh, no, I don't want that one. It's created an extra one by accident. Confirm deleting my image. Save. Changes saved, preview again. Nah, still not working. Could be because I'm using the free version too. Oh no, it changed. There we go. Just wasn't quick enough. So we can see the little change that was made there. And again, you can play around with those. Maybe you could change, maybe if it's, you know, Lunar New Year, you could have a different picture in for a week. And if it was coming up to exams, you could have a different picture. And I think that's one of the little ways you can personalise without wasting students' time and sort of feel that you're doing a good job. The landing page, that red landing page is just frightening. I really, really don't like it. So I am going to change that. So I'm going to delete the one that's there. Yuck. Confirm, and then I'm going to add a new background image, and here's one I prepared earlier. Now all I did with that is I took one of the slide packs, you know, that came, the proposed slide packs that we're supposed to use. I don't use them, I don't know if you do, but anyway, supposed to use, I just saved it as a JPEG, and then I've uploaded that. And again, we can have different background image. You could have a video there if you wanted to. You could have, oh sorry, got to name it. Okay, no, I don't want to add a new background image, I just want to save here. Also, when you're working on the screen, you can see you just have to hover over and it will show you what it looks like. So I've got that ridiculous pink button in there. You know, it's just giving you a general sense of how things look. So again, we preview, and already our little practice bot, so the first one is clearly not going to do that. It then goes, because it'll have the branding, because I'm using the free version. When I found this, actually, because of the other work that I do, I'm constantly looking for bargains with software in entrepreneurial ways, and there's a website called AppSumo, which basically does bulk buying of different kind of software as a kind of marketing device, particularly aimed at entrepreneurs, and that's where I found this. So I got a 10,000, a lifetime license with 10,000 interactions a month for $50 US. So pity the project wasn't approved and ready to go when the university could have bought that. So then all of you could be playing in the same one. It would be a lot easier. Okay, privacy settings. I think these are worth looking at and thinking about where you want to use them. I do have them turned on in the bot that I use myself, and that's because I'm a lawyer, right? You can take the lawyer out of the law firm and put her in a classroom, but she's still going to protect her rights. So I am very confident that the background privacy in this is fine. But I say when I'm sending students out into the bot, this is completely unauthorized, going outside of RMIT. And then before I take their email, I've got this turned on. So it says there's terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions take them to Qurio's terms and conditions. which and again, it's quite easy to do. I've put on the top of them, you know, this is Kath doing it herself. She's not making, you know, she's done her research and everything looks fine, but I'm not taking any responsibility, and you're an idiot if you give me your email. So that possibly could be why people pull out at that stage, shall we say, but who knows. And then just running down here, just so that you know, again, I don't think we'll need to change any of these, but there are default responses for incorrect data when a student puts something in. And so some of them, too, it might be that you want to actually have a particular response. For example, you know, if somebody, and you can do these at the granularly at the individual prompt level, but for example, if one of the buttons we have is a mental health button, in the sense of, you know, it's just a button, I call it the mental health button, but one of the first options in the commercial law one is, the option is, I'm feeling worried and anxious, what should I do? And then it goes through to, are you worried about your assignment? You could do this. These are some numbers you can help, or blah, blah, blah. But if they don't answer that after a period of time, it might be you want to default with, actually, here's a number you can call if you want to speak to a human. So that inaction actually would prompt a particular response. But again, we're only limited by our creativity and thinking, right? And again, building that out, I think the project's probably going to need to get some, you know, insights from those who know what they're doing. And then lastly in this section, there's quite powerful tools for creating variables. So this says already, this one's got some variables for calculating the score, which we can have a look at. They're step variables, but there are also all of these variables that come automated. So you can actually go with the student's first name, last name, variables for collecting emails and stuff. And we can have a go at trying to use those. How am I going? Get in there. All right. So let's go and edit a bot. So the bots all tend to start with some kind of welcome set, and I think the logic for that is that you don't really want it to just keep triggering and then nothing happening. So it's basically so that the student can either dismiss it and say, no, I don't want to do this, or it can pop up. So it's the way that this software works, you can link this. I didn't show you in the channels, but it's really easy to take out a piece of code and it'll go straight into a WordPress website or a Wix website or a Squarespace website. It'll also works pretty seamlessly with Facebook Messenger. It's you know, it's not built for education, so I don't think it does anything differently from what I've just shown you in Canvas. I don't think I can put it directly into Canvas in that way, and I don't know that you would want to, but there are different ways of approaching that. I feel really left out. People are clapping. Can we just clap for a minute to make it sound like we're having fun? Woo! Exactly. Sorry, I just feel like they're just not having a good time. And so, actually, I'm not sure that the quiz is the best way to go. Can we just start from scratch? Because I think if we start from scratch, we'll get a sense of what you guys actually want to build, and we'll crowdsource one. So we're going to new bot. We're going to start from scratch. That's, oh, Catherine. That was the method in my madness in making a typo the first time round. Okay, so hi and welcome. Are you ready to start? Yes, let's go. No, exit. Okay, fairly easy. So we've got a bot that already works. Probably should have made, I'll fiddle around and make those changes we've already made to make it look pretty at the end, okay? So we've got a really basic bot at this stage. So we're just going to save that. I'm not going to make all of those changes again. Let's add a stop. Tanya, what do you teach? What would you like to teach? It can be anything, really. We can just make this up. E-learning and education. I'm thinking e-learners will be like right into this. So here we go. So I'm going to say, hi, you're not quriobot. I am MacBot. All right, anybody got a question about e-learning and education that they would like to ask this bot?
Can we do it on our mobile phone?
Ah, that's a good idea. Let's find out. So we're going to add a new step. Now, just thinking about that question. So again, we're kind of imagining that we've taught this a few times. This is a question that we get a lot. Is it something where we would want just to give an immediate answer? Is it something where there might be different paths that we can go down? It's probably a, can we do it? It's like it's kind of a yes or no. But maybe yes would lead to how, and we could throw some issues in. Does that make sense as a way of doing it? So let's throw that in. So we're going to just pick a yes, no. So all of these different responses here, sorry, I'll make my screen a bit bigger so you can see, they're the different kinds of questions that you can ask. Now, I think they were clearly a startup when they started and they wanted to make things look a little fancier than they really were. There's no real difference between a yes and no and a multiple choice question other than a yes and no is limited to 2. It's binary basically. So, and again, once you've got a question type, you can change it to another question type later. So let's just pick the yes and no for now. Just make that smaller again. Yep. Now here, what I've got is we've got a number of, again, I can, in these responses, so this is the messages. So it's the first thing that the bot's going to say when we get to this point. And I can do, just put text in there. I can put a hyperlink to something else in there. I could make it an information type, and I'll show you that in the responses. Here is where I could put in a picture, a GIF or something as well. The ones that are in orange, you have to turn it into developer mode. And I have done that and had some success with doing it, but I'm not going to do it in a room full of 50 strangers and, yeah, like really out myself because that would just be embarrassing. And also video. So we can put a range of different things in this space. So I'm thinking at this stage we might just want to put in some sort of picture. Oh, the other thing, this little bot face here, we could decide to change from one avatar to another avatar at that space. So that's all that that would be really doing. So I'm going to put a picture in here. I don't know if I've got a picture or a GIF that is going to be... Come on. This is the worst. I might have to just go over here to do that. And like every middle-aged person on the planet, I can't use a trackpad for the life of me. I don't know why. It's embarrassing, but somebody could deal with that. Let's see, I've got some Bitmojis in here. Question. That'll do. Save. All right, it answers a yes or no, and at the moment it doesn't go anywhere. Let's save that and see what doesn't it like? Okay, and next step maybe I need to say, I'll just go back to hi and welcome, see if that works. Here we go, let's have a preview. Okay, remember we did this, but I did it in the wrong one. So can I help you? Hi, I'm MacBot. I'm here to talk about e-learning and education. Are we ready to start? Yes, we are. Okay, let's go. Can you do it on a mobile phone? Now, that's actually asking the question. I think I probably need to have a range of questions as that first one. So let's go back and play with that. So maybe what I will do is I will change the, actually no, I'm going to add a new step in. I'm saying, let's say, what would you like to ask me? Okay, and we'll get a couple of options here. We'll say, can you do it on a mobile? Oh, okay. Sorry. Did I tell you I was nervous before? This is how it shows out when I do things like that. So what I've done there, what I did wrong, I'll explain, is I just went straight into the step type. It would have, if I had skipped that and just put it into the bot message, it would have automatically given it that same name. So this is the question. Sorry, this is where I need my pointer to work. So, come on, behave yourself. So this is the question about what it is that, this is the name of the step. This is the first question that comes out. Now we need to provide the answer options. So if we think about it as a decision tree, it's the trigger, then we've got, so maybe if you think about it as a multiple choice quiz, you've got the question and then you've got 4 options. Only in this case, we've got a guide or a trigger, which we don't necessarily even have to have in there, and then 3 or 4 questions that might be asked. So can you do it on a mobile phone? That's a good one. Okay, and the bot responses. So now I go in here. So now I've got a list of answers. So I just pull my drop down menu there, and let's go to what the meaning of life is first, because we've already got a trigger for that. We are going, now I could throw some advanced conditions in there. So I could say, you know, and I can show you the way I've done it in the other one. So with contract law, I teach an online class and a face-to-face class. There's one bot for both. So early on, I just ask them, are you face-to-face or online? Because there are some little differences, or some big differences. You know, I've got to send them to a different website if they're in the OUA canvas than if they're in the face-to-face canvas. The dates for exams are different, you know, things like that.
So
Sorry, Mum.
2 separate bots?
No, I've built one bot, and I've just got a trigger question at the beginning, and then I've built in that logic by using that advanced conditioning to say, yeah. So, for example, with we could do this with the project we're working on with the large group. It might be, it could ask them early on. Actually, I can think of a lot of reasons why you might not want to do this, particularly if they want to stay anonymous, but you might ask them what tutor you're in. So you can direct them to who your tutor is, you know, and then basically you'd have a condition. So who is my tutor? I don't know who my tutor is, might be the question. It would then ask, what day is your tute, or something like that. And then it would, so if question is who is my tutor and response is Mondays, tutor is Fred Smith, something like that.
So in that last slide,
No, that's all right. It gives you a chance to have a drink.
yeah.
Go on.
In that last example, you said with OUA students and face-to-face students, would you embed the same bot in 2 different sites?
So just to go to that for a second, as soon as we create this, I can share this afterwards, it creates a landing page for the bot that we're dealing with. And I'm just basically linking to that. It's like, it's kind of so easy, it's embarrassing. That's why they're not paying me. It's like, it's just kind of one of those things. So we edit the bot. Back to that. So, what do you need to know? Actually, while I'm at that, I may as well, this is what's hard without it. Oh, there. Sorry, I just need to, because my mouse isn't working, or it's not working on there, I can't drag because I'm an old lady. There we go. So I've now just changed the order of those as well. Okay, so we're into this one. What is the meaning of life? We're going to say 42, am I correct? And the next step might be, for now, exit. But what I could do, redirect URL, for example, I might send it to Douglas Adams' website. I could go anywhere, right? You know, like it's just, again, it's just if this, then that logic, which is why lawyers are good at this stuff. It's like it's just like writing a document. So the next bot response I have, now the other thing I could do here is I could actually just answer the same question again and put a different answer. And then that will randomize that. So it'll just give the same answer to the question. Well, we'll test it in just a second. Everything else is then just going to continue on for the moment. I'll just save it for where we're at. Let's preview what we've got. And again, this is probably the biggest tip I can give you is when you're playing with it, just keep saving, checking it out, seeing what it is. So thank you, Mattbot. Yes, we're ready to start. Let's go. What do I need to know? What is the meaning of life? Actually, can you do it on a mobile phone with no context? Just looks dirty. 42, then there's a question mark. It's gone into, can you do it on a mobile phone? Yes, no. So I'm just going to restart that. Now this little button here lets me go back. Actually, I'm going to go back even further. Come on. So it removes all my answers. Mattbot here, I'm just going to do the same thing, hopefully because it is random. Whoa! I love yous. I love yous all. Don't know, I need to ask a dolphin, you see. And I've found, I think slightly different versions of the same answer kind of humanises it, to use James GG's language from earlier this morning.
I was going to ask you why you would do that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessary or not. And again, all of these things, I think they're pretty easy little experiments to see if the feedback is better or worse, if they're different. So I think they're quite easy to do. All right, I knew we were going to run out of time. Is anybody actually building anything?
No.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know, but I've got a few other things I want to do. So I'm just going to work out whether I build, whether we show off some of the stuff that you guys have been building, or I'm just wondering if there's some of the fancier things if I show you how I've done them in one that's already been built rather than just is there anything in particular that somebody would like to see or have us experiment with doing? Deer in the headlights. Do I need to put up the disrupted bot to see whether or not there's anything there? All right, I'm happy to keep going the way I'm going. I just want to make sure we're all...
It shows fancy stuff. Yeah.
So, okay, well, what kind of fancy stuff? We'll throw in... I mean, the GIFs and the videos I think are quite easy. Just have a look at the question. Oh, actually, before we even do that. I don't know if you saw what I touched, this little button down here. There. Now I can actually see this as a flowchart. Now I find the flowchart hard to work in, but useful to come back and play with. To just have a look at how things work and how things are connecting. And particularly the very first one I did that had so many different steps in it, then suddenly I've got a step that's out there in the wilderness and I didn't realise that it was there, and it's just making it slow and bloated when I'm dealing with it. I've got to say it's actually not that slow, but I think it is. You're dealing with something in the cloud. It's based in Netherlands, so again, and this is just as much an approach to building the bots as it is to the specific bot itself. Okay, so something fancy, something cool. Let's have a look at the step types. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong button. Come on. So a couple of the different step types. I quite like this autocomplete step type when you've got a lot of questions. So what I was able to do is I've got about 40 questions that come up regularly, some of which are about the same things, but I got them from my emails, different ways that students say, how can I get an assignment, including I think I've got at one stage, does anybody else get the emails that start with, I've never asked for an assignment before? I get them all the time. If I had $1 for every one of those, I wouldn't need to work here. And so I'd like even put that kind of language in. I don't know how to do this. So I find them that autocomplete quite useful. I think too, if you got a bit sophisticated with it, things like the calendar could also be quite a useful tool. I use another thing called Calendly to book appointments so that students can go in and see when I'm free, and I can link that into the bot so that I don't have to deal with them at all. They can just find a time, book it, and it ends up in my diary, which, because I don't work on campus, I don't want to be messing around with the backwards and forwards to find a time to have a Zoom meeting. Let's have a look. Now I've said that it's in there, I'm hoping it's in there. There's the bot. In fact, if it's not in there, because I know I was playing with it, but I can't remember if I actually published it in or not. So let's have a look. Here's my bot. I'll just go into the preview for the Chatbot. Well, clearly I won't. What have I done here? Look, let's just build it in. IA, Tanya, are you IA or YA? I want to meet with Tanya. And we'll say, so the answer options, in fact, we probably don't even need them to make any choices here. We'll just confirm. We don't, you can go, sorry, maybe I need a step type that will confirm that. So I'm going and changing the step type to, instead of an autocomplete, I'm going to send it to a URL. I know, I'll do a fold out because that's kind of fancy. You asked for fancy. So hopefully I can do this. I want to meet with Tanya. So the bot response will be, sorry, I'll just get a Calendly link from me. Sorry, let me find it. Of course, as soon as you say you can do something on the fly, something's going to break. All right, we're going to call that a talk about the assignment. I'm just going to copy the link. All right, so answer option. Okay, I'm ready to go. Okay, iframe, we're going to put it in there, the link in there. So down the bottom, the step setting is an iframe, which just, as I understand it, we've got coding people here. It's just basically a little bit of code with a website or another link that basically brings that into your website to make it look like you did it when you didn't really. And I'm just going to say, hope we found a good time for you, and I'm going to make the next step exit. Why not? Let's save that. Okay, I've got an error. Fold out option. No, let's not worry about it. No. Let's not worry, sorry, clearly it's a yes, no is where they start. The yes, no's only let you have so much. Okay, so the bot message will be, I need to make this make sense. Do you want to book a time to meet with Tanya? And the default next step, if you get no, is just just do that. Doesn't really matter what it is. Save. Is our logic working yet? Okay, it's saved. Let's preview it. Nothing like doing these things on the fly. Okay, ready to start, yes. Now we could take that out, that could be annoying, it's not adding any value. Do you want to pick a time? It's then zoomed out because I use the fold out measure. Okay, it said, okay, these are times that I'm available. I'm really hoping there are none. Let's see. Oh, look, we can meet with Tanya on the 24th at 2 p.m. Confirm, put in the details. We'll add some other people, put in their phone number. It's all done there. I don't have to have anything to do with it. It just pops up in my diary. And at the Calendly end, I'm only allowing it to have it available at times that actually suit me. So, sorry, I don't really want to do that. So there we go. Okay, and then it's asking me, we go on. See? I think that's pretty fancy and was not all that difficult to do. It did rely on me already having that up. I know a lot of people around campus use Doodle. Could go exactly to your Doodle page as well and then just ask them to suggest times, whatever. Am I the only one who's super lazy about that sort of stuff? It's like, I'm really happy to have those meetings, but I don't want to spend half an hour of my life trying to work out when the meeting is. So that works for me. So we can keep building, or we can probably finish a little bit early, actually. Questions, concerns, comments, frustrations, what do you reckon?
Yeah, like you said earlier, like you come across more and more bots just out there in the world, and I was reflecting on a recent experience I had last week with Telstra. Now, I consider myself to be reasonably intelligent, just putting in what I thought were relevant keywords. It just wasn't getting it, right?
Yeah.
So the experience didn't end well for me, didn't end well for Telstra.
Yeah.
And I kind of kept thinking, why don't you just give me a decent FAQ page for a person?
Mm.
So it was quite alienating, the whole experience. So I want to view this optimistically, but my lived experience of bots is that you can obviously get good ones and bad ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the key?
I think the key is a good FAQ page, personally. I think the key is actually making sure that you have in it the things that the students want to know, delivered in an order that makes sense to them. And I think we can think, and I think there's a bit of a nudge theory in doing it. So again, I'm speculating. This is all pretty new, and we had a pretty good look at the beginning to see what research had been done about bots with students, and there's very little at all. Most of the research that we were able to find was about how to teach students to code bots, not about how they're being used in any sense. But I'll come back to you. But I think what was really, for me, has been interesting in seeing it is that I think everybody's different and they'll want to approach it in a different way. I've had a number of students who, in saying to me, yeah, I'd just rather ring you and talk to you, which is nice, I guess. They're effectively saying, but if I was dealing with Telstra or my utility company or whatever, I would prefer to use a bot than get on the phone to someone in the Philippines. And so from a practical point of view of just getting information, I think if you've got a good FAQ page on your Canvas shell, you can use that to populate your bot. You could start really early in the bot and say, have you tried the FAQ page? Or if they're not coming up with something, part of the response could be, have you tried the FAQ page, or have you tried RMIT Connect? Here's their number, that sort of thing, if they're not getting through to a person. Or just send me an email. You don't have to do it through this or otherwise. I think with any kind of tech, it's only going to be as good as what you put behind it. And I think the more thoughtful we are about how to do that, and I think we can nudge a little bit. So again, sorry I started that long, it's very like me to go in a long rambling way, but my thought with the bots is, one of the first questions I ask really early on is, or the trigger is, I feel anxious. And then for two reasons. One is the students who are so desperate when they're feeling anxious to go to a bot, I think they want to see it up front. But I think it actually signals to every other student who goes in there, whoever put this bot together cares about me. So it's humanizing it in a way. Now, I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know. And I'm not even sure how you would test that in an ethical way. But I don't know. I'm going to chat with Lisa Negri in the next couple of days and see if she can help me think that through. So you had a question over here, and I know there's one or two over here.
My experience with Qantas was exactly the same as yours. I had a flight cancelled on me, and it's very stressful trying to get home to Adelaide. And the chatbot was obviously there to stop that human interaction. So I think, for me, when I saw that Qantas just don't want their people to talk to you, that created a really negative experience for me. So I think it comes down to the purpose of the chatbot, and if you're trying to build a brick wall that you want to hide behind, then it's never going to be seen as favourable. But if it's something that gives perhaps, I don't know, a smart automated answering machine or a smart out-of-office sort of type thing, people will get to you eventually and find. But not if it's there instead of you. I think it would just create a real negative sort of thing.
Yeah, and look, and that's, I suspect that you're right. I would like to test that. I think with teachers, there are things that the students want from us. Yeah. And then they get as frustrated as we do about trying to trawl around the website to find things. And we are their connection with this space. Like, no student I've ever dealt with cares that I'm a sessional, but they still want to come and see me. So that's why I did the Calendly and I use Zoom. So they'll constantly say, I want to come and see you about something. And I spent a long time pushing back with, well, just email me your question is, or can we speak on the phone? But I have found that, and in the week before assignments, just even going out and putting an email and saying, if you need a consult, you can go and find my times. And then I'm finding students who would never have come to me in that way, which may be a bad thing, but no, not at all.
Having a quick video chat than it is to answer 20 backwards and forwards emails to get clarification.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. No, this has definitely saved me a heap of time, and the Calendly piece alone has saved me so much time, not only with my students, actually. I did that for my business initially because most of my clients are overseas, and so that's why I've got so many different options. So I found that is absolutely, it's been fabulous. Better than a VA, let me tell you. There was another person out there. Oh, Tanya, it's you, sorry.
So I was going to say that last year I had a student of staff in my team in another institute where we were doing help desk for academics and stuff. And so she created a chatbot to help, and I think your examples were that was so big. So she did some questions that she knew academic. They'd looked at all the questions that came into the help desk, and it was things like, if it was the LMS or Canvas, it was how do I mark an assignment? How do I get the grade book out? How do I respond to a discussion forum? And so she set up links to our help pages and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's got some useful information. So if you want to hear about it, she's got a YouTube video about
great, I'd love
academics. So she put a whole heap of academics through it to see if it was working and take them to the right pages, what they wanted to answer and stuff. So
I would have loved to have known about that. That could have saved me a whole heap of time. That's the other thing, just to sort of finish up, the next thing I'm excited about using it for is quizzes. So I've spent a lot of time since Canvas came in to try and, because I'm teaching a law subject, and anyway, long story short, our classes have to start at 6:30 at night now, and we need to finish them by 8:30. So we've effectively lost an hour of face-to-face time every week, or I have, which has been replaced by an online tute, which very few students are coming to. I'd be lucky to get 15 in an online tute, where I'm getting, half as many again in class. So one of the things I've tried to do is give them an opportunity to test how well they've understood the readings and the cases that they need to deal with each week, because it's a very text-heavy type course, by putting in little quizzes. And the Canvas quiz functionality, I think, is pretty good. It's got lots of, but they're slow and they're difficult to make in a way, or they're not intuitive for me. And it's kind of disappointing because I get very little take-up. Unless they're marked, on the whole, the students don't do it, especially postgrad students who are working full-time, who are, doing a complex qualification. It's not marked. But I don't really want to go down the slippery slope of marking these. They're really just to test your reading. So the next experiment that I'm wanting to play with this is because you can see they're like multiple choice quizzes, right? But I've got a lot more refinement in them. So I can give 4 options, and one of them, because the way it's set up, you can actually choose more than one as being correct, but then if they're wrong, the next step might be another question about that thing, or direct them to the specific reading about the area that they've had trouble with. And again, as we all know, when we put our multiple choice questions together, the way they get it wrong informs us about the way that we teach and what we do next. So I think I can get a lot. I feel like that might be the really powerful thing I can do with this now. I know how to do it. So even though I started off today saying this has kind of been a failure in the sense that, you know, when I wrote the proposal to do this presentation, I had no idea whether students would take it up or not. The short answer was, yeah, at the moment they haven't taken it up, but I think I know the reasons, some of the reasons for that. I think partly it's the creepy reason, is asking them too early for their name and their email. I can see that that's where they drop out, and I don't really need that. I was only putting it in there so it could be more customised. I think another reason is actually it's a very small class that I'm dealing with, and I'm pretty accessible, so they don't need a bot. They're not, I've got to say the feedback I'm getting is not that they don't feel that the bot is a way of me stopping them coming to me. So maybe I need to take a lesson from Qantas or Telstra in relation to that. But I think, I feel like once they talk about it amongst themselves, if it's useful to them for admin stuff, I feel like maybe culturally it can grow. And I also think that might be the other benefit of putting quizzes in the chatbot. From their point of view, they'll see the chatbot as this kind of learning advisor thing that can help them in these other things. If it's a bit more fun, they might do the quizzes, they might get more used to it and use it in that other. Again, it's an experiment. I don't know if it'll work or not. Maybe I need to make a YouTube video to share my outcomes. I think one of the learnings, I think I've already said this at the beginning, was I start off making it too big, and I think the more granular it is and specific to a semester, the more of a bitch it's going to be trying to fix it for next semester. So the more granular you can, more recyclable you can get it, the better. But again, also, I think it's really easy to forget. Again, I don't want to cast aspersions, but I find it's really easy to forget what I've got in my Canvas shell, which I'm dealing with all the time, right? Because I'm not reading it. And so when the students are then pointing out, oh, but in the Canvas shell it says blah, 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 it's like, oh, okay, that was specific to 4 semesters ago, just ignore that. So I think you do need some discipline about keeping on top of it. And I just think there's so many interesting questions here. I think there's some really interesting research possibilities. And yeah, it's probably more fun than I usually have dicking around doing stuff with tech. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you learned something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Well, that was an awesome presentation. I really appreciate it. Very brave to do live building in a web app.
I'd love to see, by the way, if anybody did actually build something as they go, I'd really love it if you would send them to me. I'd love to have a look and share some feedback.
Thank you,
so that's me. I'm here.
Just to let you know that lunch is about to be made available on level 5. Thank you all for your attention.